The documentary we made is about a 31-year-old teacher and former beauty queen called Perera, who was viciously murdered in April of 1979. The reason we chose the story was because it was such a sensational case. So it had all the elements there. It had elements of jealousy, it had elements of anger, pain, a triangular affair. So in that sense, we needed to reproduce or reenact these things close to the original as possible. The first major challenge, I think, was for us to locate witnesses. Many of them had really forgotten key details of the case. So we had to help them along the way by giving them excerpts from the newspapers relevant to their testimonies. The other, of course, was to reproduce the actual killing itself authentically. And we felt that CGI could try to visualize the killing as close as possible to what had actually happened. So what we did was, when we interviewed Dr. Krishnan, we asked him to reenact the killing based on the wounds that he had identified on the body. So we set up chairs, we had a person to act as a victim. Using a knife, he was trying to show us reproduce the stab wounds. So when he did that, of course, we had a video camera and we taped the whole thing. So that looked fantastic for us. It was a good reference to see how the killing had taken place. Now the problem was when we brought it back, then we realized that he was reproducing the killing in a free space. He was standing behind the victim and he was just having his hands moving very freely, you know. But when we were doing CGI within a 3D space, now you'd have to imagine that the killer was in the back seat. It's a very old-fashioned car. So you've got a very huge gearbox sticking in between. You've got the gear sticking out. He's got this narrow little space between the driver's seat and the passenger seat. So how is the killer going to maneuver himself and execute the blows within a 3D space? That gave us a bit of challenge. And we rediscussed with Dr. Krishnan, and that's where we kind of refined the whole process. When you look at it for the first time, of course, it looks a little disturbing. The thing that we must remember is then we need to empathize with the victim. And then we need to understand that, look at how atrocious the attack was and how vicious it was. And then we begin to feel for the victim. So I think CGI has helped us do that as well, without having to use live actors, you know. So I think that's the authentic part of it that we felt was reproducing it responsibly. Most definitely, we are giving her a fairer trial, so to speak, because you must understand the circumstances 30 years ago. And all we had were the newspapers. And sometimes it's quite easy for one to be totally detached and make nasty comments by just what we read, you know. Today, we can, of course, reproduce it a little bit more objectively and a little bit more open. So in that sense, I think we are doing some form of justice to all the people involved in the case.